What's up, y'all? It's me, Erica, and we are down here. Peace, y'all. Take care of each other. Protect your energy. What's up, everybody? It's me, Erica, and this is your Love and Hip Hop Family Reunion. I don't know what episode it is. So, this episode was very emotional for me. It was really emotional for me. So I said to myself, I'm going to try to calmly talk about the things that happened on this episode. And I took so many notes because I just don't like to forget anything. The things that stick out to me, I don't like to forget it. And I really thought that the scene with Bobby and Jonathan and Zell was something that needed to be seen, because just like Black people always say that, Black people are not a monolith. And in the same way, gay Black people and gay people are not a monolith either. And the way that they express their queerness is different, in terms of how they perform it is different than the next person. And I really believe that watching that, we missed a learning opportunity with Peter Guns. He missed a learning opportunity, because I think that people have a clear understanding of how harmful it is to be homophobic. And I think a lot of people, like racists, a lot of people who are homophobic or practice homophobia, they feel like it has to be overt and nasty, right? You have to be calling people the F word, and you have to be violent, right? But it's subtle. Sometimes it's not allowing a child to wear a costume because you feel like it's too girly, right? Even though the way that Jonathan was describing that gay conversion abuse, we're not going to even call it therapy, it's gay conversion abuse. He called it torture. I think they don't realize that that's the same thing. When you are trying to limit how a child expresses themselves through costumes or whatever, because of your irrational fear of homosexuality, that's when people say, I'm not homophobic, I'm not scared of gay people. Yeah, you are. You have an irrational fear or an aversion to, and that fear will cause you to do things irrational, so irrational that you won't let a child wear a costume, a ladybug. And because it's pink, and you've associated pink with femininity, and how in this world where we're supposed to uphold whiteness, maleness, heterosexuality, and Christianity, what am I going to do if my son wants to wear pink? It's not upholding maleness. It's not upholding that. And so I have to stop that. That's an irrational fear. That is literally the definition of homophobia. Or any phobia. It's an irrational fear of something. It's like you start thinking of the weirdest things when you see these things. The fear is irrational. It doesn't make sense. So that's all I have to say. We'll get to that. Cisco and Safari are still into it. Safari is pissed. He's mad, and I would be mad too. If I'm in the middle of having a conversation about one thing, you want to pull me to the side and talk about something else that you're worried about how you were seen to other people. Don't nobody have time for that, Cisco. Safari throws a rock or something at him. Peter tells Cisco it wasn't the right time. Stevie and Safari, they move Safari off to the side. And they're telling Safari, we don't see you act like this. Like, what's going on with you? And he was like, I just need to calm down. He's like, yeah, I'm not even like this. Safari is not his violence is subtle. His violence comes in the form of emotional abuse to women. That's how he enacts violence. So he's not an outwardly expressive violent man. He's fun loving and jovial, but when he's in relationships with women, that's where he enacts violence. Erica says his aggression and guilt speaks volumes of him just needing to own up to his shit. So maybe she feels like that all of that culmination of everything going on. Safari says that it's not true. Later he comes out and admits that he did send the woman flowers. We already knew that, and even Marcus was telling him how, whether it's true or not, it looks true, and based on a pattern of behavior, we're only going by what you've done in the past. These are not isolated incidents, and I think it's very telling how we get to see different facets of women being, or I don't want to say, is it facets? Is that the right word? Different examples of Black women, and well, let me just stick to the script. Amina and Peter and Tara were outside. This was after all they broke up everything. Amina tells Peter that he's still good on the drums. Peter tells Tara, let me walk you to your room. I'm going to remind you of what you had, or something like that. And she says, I hit you already. I have 3 kids by you. Go find somebody young that you can try that shit on. And he was like, you know you want to, but it's all right. She doesn't want to. And honestly, it's another example. I have no clue. This is the reason why I would love to like host a reunion, because I would ask every woman on the set or on the cast, why is it that after you saw what Peter Guns did to Tara and Amina, why is it that any one of you women would suggest, and I would be looking dead at Shakana too, would suggest that she get back with him? Why would you do that? Why would you want a woman to go back to someone who mishandled her and mistreated her for a long time publicly? I don't understand that. I just go back to the idea of Black male worship and how we live in this society where people, women and men, worship men, and to the point where you will excuse the violence that you saw. You will excuse it and suggest that this woman go back with the person who enacted the violence against her. That's why when Amina was yelling to the top of her lungs, I understood every octave of it. I understood it, because how dare you jump up in front of a man who was violent to me to defend him in the name of homophobia? Because that's what y'all were defending. Y'all were so quick, like, oh my God, she made a suggestion that he could possibly be homophobic. Don't nobody think Peter Guns is homophobic, but your actions is an example of homophobia. We don't think Peter is out there throwing rocks at people and calling people the F words, but within his family, he's doing gay conversion therapy. You can't wear pink ladybug costumes because that's for girls. Well, what is for girls? It's a ladybug. What you talking about? I remember when my son, I don't remember how old he was. He was under 5, but he was like, pink is not for girls. Why do people feel like pink is for girls? It's not for girls. It's a color. How do you assign a gender to a color? He was little like that, and he just didn't understand. How do you say that a color is for a boy or for a girl? That's a programming that creates these weird ideas around how you perform masculinity and femininity. You believe that if he wears pink, he's a girl. It makes no sense. Stevie and Mimi, Stevie says that in 1990, he's known Mimi since 96. Everything went left. He wants his friend back. I saw similarities between me and Safari. This is what Stevie J says. Every single man on that show has mistreated a woman in our face. We have seen them do it. We have seen them do it. We have seen the examples of how men and women relate to each other in our community. Those are examples. I think that's why a lot of people don't like to watch shows like this, because we watch it shows to escape. And when you turn on the television and you see Stevie J, Safari, Cisco, Peter Guns, Rich Dollars, you just see all these examples of how Black men relate to women and how violent they have been relating to women and how they mishandle the women they claim they love. I noticed Cisco said something, and I want to say it before I forget. When he was talking to Sin, and she told him, you know, you wouldn't have charged me had I given you a time a day. And then he said something like, I didn't see you like that. And I thought it was weird for him to say that I respected you, so I didn't want to have sex with you. That's the way he framed it. That was a lie. It was a lie. He was lying. But out of his mouth, he said, I respected you. So I thought to myself, so he has sex with women he doesn't respect. And then I thought again, there are a lot of men who have sex with women they do not respect. How do you do that? How do you handle your own body like that, where you lay down and enter a person that you don't respect? And like you do it and then or enter a person you don't even know, and have any kind of relationship with, and just go from woman to woman to woman. That's that. And in that, boys are taught how to be straight, right? It's to have sex with a lot of women. That's how you define your sexuality, is to have sex with a lot of women. That's dangerous. And I think it's unhealthy for men. And that idea of, oh, you, in order to be heterosexual, this is, as a man, a Black man, really, knock down anything that's in your way, knock them down. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, you're taught to have sex with all of these just women and just have sex. It's like quantity is the goal, not quality, right? And then you worried about, it's so weird because you're worried about the boys being gay, to the point where you tell them have sex with as many women as you can, because that is a testament to how manly you are. But it's also very harmful and unhealthy. And then it teaches boys to relate to girls as they grow up, to men to relate to women, unhealthy, toxic ways to relate intimately to women. But that's your idea. Like, what's more dangerous? Like, when you think about it, you know, India Moore said it best.
You need to really think about where you get your power. You need to really dive deep and think about who taught you what your masculinity means. Because, you know, a lot of people like the baby. I don't know what his babyhood was like. I don't want to pretend to either, but I do know that a lot of Black men are traumatized into masculinity, right? I don't know. I just hope y'all can hear me queerly and clearly. A lot of Black men are traumatized into masculinity. They're beaten into masculinity. They're told that to be masculine means to not be gay. To be a man means to not have sex with men. To be a man means to abuse women. A lot of Black men are taught this.
Similarities between, Stevie said that there are similarities between him and Safari. He said that what he did with Mimi and Jocelyn wasn't cool. It sounds like he hasn't seen his daughter. He makes a promise to Mimi. Mimi says, don't make any promises to me. And he says, well, I guarantee you. She said he's been making promises for 12 years and just fucking do it. He says that he's going to show her that he's going to be consistent, and I'm going to show you the man that I've become. And it's so weird how grown-ass men will sit across from a grown-ass woman and be like, I can show you the man at 55 fucking years old. I can show you the man that I've become. girl, whatever. And Mimi is like, girl, I just want to see the father you've become. I don't give a fuck about the man you become, honey. Rich and Cisco go off for a walk, and he says the situation with Safari made him look crazy. He didn't care that Safari didn't show up, but the fact that he didn't show up made him look crazy, and he didn't like that. He says, well, there's a time and a place for that. You need to squash it, and you need to squash it with sin. And he said, yeah, I'm gonna make it right with sin. Safari and Marcus and Peter are having a conversation, and Marcus tells Safari that he needs to be 100% accountable. What he did looks true. Safari kept denying it, even though we find out later that he did send the woman flowers. If you don't handle women correctly, they'll erupt. And I'm sure that Marcus is speaking from personal experience, because I see Brooke Valentine erupting. She gives me eruption. Okay. Safari says, well, we've been divorced 5 months. I can go where I want and I can do what I want, and she can too. And he feels that sometimes men need to kind of pacify women because they create these ideas in their head and they believe it. So I just need to go along with it just because they believe it, even if it's not true. And you see how he's gaslighting the situation. He's injecting that talking point, right? That, oh, she just believes anything and she comes up with it in her head, so I just have to pacify it. No, what we're talking about is what you just did. And what you just did was send a woman flowers on the way to a family reunion where you knew that your wife that you're getting divorced from is going to be there, and then you lied about it. So this injecting this talking point is irrelevant, and it could take you off course. Let's stay focused and focus on what you did, because how she felt about that wasn't that. It wasn't, oh, she just made up something in her head and she believes it. It wasn't that. This time you did it. And he admits later that I made mistakes. Yes, I was outside. I come clean, and I was hanging out with the girls. Jonathan is getting ready for his gay conversion informational, brunch or whatever, LGBT. He was calling it Pride Day, but that was the topic, was the gay conversion abuse. But before that, he said that Sin needed to talk to Cisco. They needed to talk to each other. And she's so compassionate that she feels like Cisco might feel like an outsider. So he says that he hasn't even really thought about the music. He went out after everything had happened. He put the masters and everything in his little vault, he said. He said that he didn't think about it until he came to San Diego. He apologized. Want to go to, she said okay. So Jonathan tried to frame it as chivalry, like, okay, he's going to handle the bill because we're cool. But you were selling her a dream, and because she didn't give it up, you took all the songs away. And he was denying that, saying that he even tried to suggest that he was misled. He even tried to suggest that he was misled, or he misread. You can understand why I misread it, because we were going out. But I think she was clear on what she said. So I don't know. That was for my brother. She started crying, and he was like, I sent you the song. I sent it this morning or whatever. She was like, no, she said, after I didn't give you, I told you the song was for my brother. You basically said, well, because you ain't giving me no pussy, I'm not giving you the song, and here's the bill for everything. So we need to take care of some expenses. And she said, if I gave you any time of day, I wouldn't have never got an invoice. And I felt played. And why is us working together contingent on our relationship? Let me tell you something. There is this idea that unless a man feels like he will eventually get access to your pocketbook, he will not help you in any kind of way. That's why a lot of women feel they don't feel protected, because men who aren't interested in you sexually will not help you. If they don't find you desirable, they won't help you. They just won't. They won't help you. So a lot of these men in the music industry find these women desirable and act like they're going to help them. And the goal is just to, practice heterosexuality the way that they've been taught to practice it. And it's just to stick their penis in this woman because she's a person with a vagina and I find her desirable. I don't care about anything else. And if you don't give it to me, I'm going to charge you for this. It's abusive. It's abusive. It's not you just getting played, but it's abusive because you're trying to leverage something over me in exchange for my body. Like that's abusive. That's abusive. She says, I don't want the record. It has a nasty energy to it, a nasty attachment to it. It almost made me stop my dreams. He says, I misread some of that. We hung out outside of the studio. I just want to move forward with positivity. That's what Jonathan said. How do we figure it out from here? She said, all my songs honor my brother now. I don't need one song to honor my brother. She's not mad anymore. They gave each other hugs. And he says, you were my friend. I really apologize. I'm really sorry, and this and that. So that was it. That's, so I thought it was funny when they were riding in the golf carts and they were playing Rough Riders anthem. I thought that was hilarious. So at Gay Pride Day, Jonathan brings a guy from the founder or co-founder of a organization called Born Perfect, where they basically protect LGBTQ people from things like this. So I thought it was very thoughtful for him to do that. He asked for all of the people to help him spread the word. And he also spoke about how, basically what it is gay conversion therapy is, people upholding that idea that you have to be heterosexual. This idea that humans come into this world and the little default switch is on heterosexual. Before the guy came, he talked to Mimi and Amina, and he told Mimi and Amina about it, and Amina was like, I've never heard of this. I didn't know. No, she said, I didn't know that this was still going on. This is terrible. I'm glad that he brought someone here so that we can have this discussion. I appreciate you for standing in your truth and you never turn away from that. And Jonathan says, yes, I twirl. I said, come on. I always twirl. Never turn away, always twirl. So he says, I know this group might act up and distract. This group is just like that. And that's exactly what happened. He called it. So he is telling, the guy, I don't remember his name. He was telling everybody about the situation and about this gay conversion therapy and what happens and how people, they end up dying by suicide. A lot of them in a pain. And then they showed a clip from Jonathan from years back where he was explaining to his mother, I think that was his mom, what happened to him when she sent him off to gay conversion therapy. Basically said when he was in school, he was getting bullied for being feminine. And his mom felt like, if I can stop you from being feminine, I can stop the bullying instead of stopping the bullying. I think it's so weird that you tell the person who's being bullied that they have to change instead of the bullying needing to stop. So he explains that they had injected him with so much testosterone that his legs would cramp up. They would have to carry him. Some kind of shock therapy they were giving him. It sounded really awful. And it's horrible to even think that anybody would think that you can actually change someone from being gay. It's so weird. And it's like crazy. Like, I don't even think that's psychotic for me. That's how I feel. And then they had the little interviews, and Marcus Black is trying to say an injustice for one of us is an injustice for all of us. His eyes just darting back and forth. He can't even figure out what he really want to say. So he says, so if I sign a petition, I want y'all to pull up and sign the petition. If you see me posting anything about this stuff, help me amplify my voice, basically is what he's saying. As allies, y'all say y'all allies. Y'all allies just as long as it's not your child. That's what it comes down to. Like Peter Guns. Peter Guns was sitting there cheering everybody on, but we'll get to that. So Peter yells, "You got my vote. You know I'm going to post it," right? So he's expressing his love to Jonathan, right? Even Jonathan invited Stevie, but Peter was expressing his love. "You know I love you, bro," and this and that. So Bobby says there's a lot of pressure and expectations, and not only the gay conversion therapy, but the church conversion therapy, okay? Religious groups, who you are, telling you who you are isn't right. It's so unfortunate that because the church is such an integral staple in Black people's lives, and then the church itself teaches you that something is wrong with who you are, and then people growing up in the church feeling like, "Oh my God, I'm going to hell. I feel like this." And their children, right? Your children, 12, 13, 10, 9, and they feel like they like the same gender, but then they're sitting in church on Sunday and they're being told that people who like the same gender are going to hell. And it's like, what kind of, where do you think a child's head is, where they have this concept and this idea of this fiery, dark place because of they're attracted to the same sex, that you want to banish them and send them to hell? It's so weird. It is so weird. And then for this love the sinner, not the sin, like even that, you're still saying that you think something is wrong with me, that you have this compassion for me because I'm this sinner, and the sin is I like the same gender. That's the sin. What are you upholding exactly? Erica Mena, she who is a bisexual, says, "So it's not a chemical imbalance, it's a preference." She needs some education. One, to believe that your sexuality is from a chemical imbalance, right? For her to even say that out of her mouth, then to turn around and say it's a preference. So Peter says, no. Jonathan says he was born like that. That's what Peter Gunn says. He says, "When do you choose to be gay?" And then the other guy says, "When do you choose?" No, the guy says, "When do you choose to be gay?" And Jonathan says, "When do you choose to be straight?" Peter says, "Put a drink up for that. Put a drink up for that." Amina turned around and said, "But Peter, your son wanted to be a ladybug for Halloween and you wouldn't let him. And I think that's fucked up." I'm just saying, he started crying. That's what she said. The little boy started crying when they told him that he couldn't be a ladybug. And I felt so bad. I thought that was wrong. And I just thought that was wrong. And she said it. When someone is watching a person be a hypocrite in their performance of allyship, you call it out. I don't give a who it is. Okay? Because you up here performing, waving flags, putting drinks in the air. But when it comes to your own child, you want to practice homophobia. And while Peter Gunn, and I said it here, I'll come down here. I don't believe. Oh, Bobby says, "Keep it real. Why? You don't like ladybugs? You like ants more than you like ladybugs?" That's where Bobby took it, but Bobby was kind of loud with it. Peter says, "Jonathan, you know I love you. Let's end this moment. Don't be trying to have a moment with me." He got up on the stage with the microphone. "Don't make this into a big deal, Amina." Amina kind of had a smile on her face. I guess she was like, "This is what you get. This is what your ass get." But we don't think that Peter is anti-gay, but he still did that to his son. He's 4 years old, Peter explains. It was for a girl. When he grows up and he wants to wear women's clothes, daddy's going to be there for you. That's basically what he was saying. Peter said, "Don't have a moment, Amina." I wrote Amina smiling. "Don't leave it like that. Don't leave." That's what Bobby said. "It's not like that, Peter." They're trying to tell him it's not about that. Peter gets upset. The label. No one likes the label. You want to be able to enforce rules like that. You want to be able to do those things, but you don't want to be labeled those things. And as small and subtle as that is, and even Jonathan said, I understood what was happening because I wanted to be the pink Power Ranger, and my mom told me I couldn't be the pink Power Ranger. And that left me with a feeling that what I want, what my desires are not good enough. That's the messaging that he got from something that small. And you guys don't realize it. Nobody's saying Peter Guns is a homophobe. I don't even think anybody was saying that, but it was an opportunity for him to learn that just something that small, and you trying to make sure that your son doesn't wear a pink ladybug's costume, you're suppressing his expressions. And it's damaging. It's damaging. I don't care how you slice it. It's damaging. It doesn't make him a bad dad. It doesn't make him a bad dad. Maybe having sex with multiple women, cheating on their mothers, that makes him a bad dad. But him trying to make his son not wear a pink ladybug costume, that doesn't make him a bad dad. It may not make him a bad dad, but that way of parenting is potentially harmful. He's a great dad. He's a great dad. He says, you know what, man, that could ruin my life. He walks away. He gets upset. Instead of sitting there and saying, okay, so what did I do that was homophobic? And then you would have Jonathan there. Even Jonathan was like, I don't think Peter is homophobic. But something like that is damaging. It's potentially harmful. And I have an issue with Black people acting as if I say something about the way that somebody is parenting, you automatically assume we're talking about the child. You're using the child as a scapegoat, the way y'all use children as a scapegoat to practice homophobia and to sit in your homophobia. Use children as a scapegoat. So here, whenever somebody is questioning somebody's parenting, you use children. You shouldn't say that. That's not your child. Doesn't matter. Amina says it doesn't matter. All these kids out here committing suicide. I feel bad. So if I don't know why I just felt like I needed to say that. Yeah, because he was performing. I don't stand on that. I don't stand on that. Amina's daughter, my daughter, is named after the woman who is gay, who raised me. Again, like I said, I don't think Peter is homophobic, but you're practicing. That is what you're doing is homophobic. You're not a homophobe, but what you're doing is literally the definition of homophobia. You have an irrational fear that your child might be gay because they want to wear a Halloween costume that's pink. Bobby and Zell. Zell says he's a real nigga. Bobby said, but you gay. So in Zell's mind, a real nigga is masculine. He said, I was raised by a real nigga. He said his dad taught him how to conceal his gayness or his femininity so that he's not discriminated against. Zell was taught how to code switch in environments to keep him safe as a way of survival. That's how I took it. And I think a lot of people operate that way when they are gay and don't say anything because it's a form of survival, because we know how people are when they find out that someone is gay. You know how people are treated when they find out someone is gay. Stevie J said, y'all been beefing. I don't know what he's saying. He told Zell that, women are raising children or something, he said. Rich says, you never should have done that. You never should have done that to a nigga you got 2 kids with. Rich, shut up. Erica says, you were wrong because that's not your son. Amina said, but the kids commit suicide. They are not mine, and I still feel bad. And Erica didn't seem to understand that. And this is what I said last night on Twitter, because I thought it was really sad that everybody kept telling her, that's not your son, that's not your son. But they're literally, Tara's son and Amina's children are siblings. Tara and Amina were sister wives at one point. I think that Tara expressing the way that Peter parents his son and that it being harmful, I think she has every single right to speak out. If you see a child being mistreated, it doesn't matter how small it is. The parent needs to understand what you did was wrong. Change that. Not to say that you're homophobic, but what you did is what is considered homophobia. That's what you did. So you need to be, instead of running away because you don't want the label, because everybody knows how awful that label is, instead of running away, you should have set your ass there and understood, hey, let me explain to you why the way that you're parenting is potentially harmful to your child. Erica, you need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. Later, Erica acted like she wanted to amplify what Amina was saying. If the man you had children with is practicing potentially harmful parenting, you have a right to speak up whether the kid is yours or not. The fact is, Peter Gunz has 10 kids. If he's raising one of them like that, he's doing it to all of them. And this is the reason why Amina said, I am so glad that I don't have sons with Peter, because of how he parents. Now, men don't have an issue with people. Most people don't have an issue with women exploring their sexuality and being lesbians or bisexual, because the idea that it benefits men some way, because they have an idea that hopefully if the woman is bisexual, she might want to have sex with me and another woman at the same time. So they're okay with women exploring their sexuality, but men cannot explore their sexuality. They can only have sex with the thousands of women. They can't explore what they like or that's what I say. I always say that Black men, they are deemed as sex gods, but in all actuality, I feel like they are probably the most repressed and suppressed in their sexuality, because the way that we operate in the Black community when it comes to homosexuality or same-sex relationships, or even just exploring your sexuality, it's such a stain there that you repress, and you like what you're doing to the little boy. You're not allowing him to express himself. And so the boys grow up, and the only way that they're allowed to express their sexuality is by having sex with a bunch of women, and like these meaningless sexual relationships, a bunch of them, so that every woman that you have sex with, you're proving that you're a man. You're proving that you're a man, and you really probably have never had really good, fulfilling, life-altering, ascending sex, because you won't even allow aspects of sex to even be performed on you because it's gay, instead of looking at it as it's pleasure. So, I mean, that's why I said Black people want to be able to be homophobic, but not be labeled homophobic. Just like racists don't want to be labeled racist, but still practice racism. They know the label is disgusting, so they want to be able to uphold it without being called one. And I said that's why I feel it's hard to find a community of cishet Black women, because they jump to protect men like Peter Gunz and demean a woman for recognizing potentially harmful parenting, upholding patriarchy one lash and bundle at a time. Marcus, that was Marcus Black when he said that men don't psychologically fully mature until they're 43. So you just watch harmful parenting and not say anything because that's not your kid. That's another thing. I don't understand how one of our proverbs is it takes a village. But when someone from the village says, that's not right and it's potentially harmful what you're doing, then everybody wants to cast out the person who did that. This idea that you can't say anything about a child or somebody's parenting because that's not your child is how our community has been infected with all forms of abuse, because we spend so much time minding our business. That's not my child. I don't have nothing to say about how they're raising a child. And they're over there potentially harming their child, but you're just ignoring it and it's nothing. But it takes a village. It takes a village, but I'm minding my business. It takes a village, but I'm minding my business. How does that work? How does that work? It's not your business. This is how abuse infects communities. You can't say it takes a village, but when the village speaks up, you run. Yo-Yo, you just threw your dad under the bus. Yo-Yo was just on the internet the other day positioning herself as if Tupac loved her more or loved everybody, trying to discount the love between Jada Pinkett and Tupac over a dead man. So I'm looking at you kind of weird too. The fact that everybody ran to protect Peter, again, like we live in this society where the legacy of the man is protected, even if he is practicing harmful parenting, potentially harmful to his child. But y'all want to protect him and what he did because you don't want the label of what he did to be slapped on him. Nobody, again, I don't even know how many times I got to say it. I don't think Peter Guns is a homophobe, but I do think what he did was homophobic. So Erica was wrong because that's not your, Erica says you was wrong. That's not your son. You know how many times he done made me look like a fool? He done made me look like a fool a million times on TV. Rich goes, here we go. Here we go. That's it. That's it. So men who pride themselves on mistreating women will get upset when the woman finally stands up and screams to the top of her lungs that she was sick and tired of being made a fool of and humiliated on television millions of times. Yes, Amina does have some resentment and hurt about that. I'm sure all of those women do against those men. Every single woman on that show has been humiliated by their male partner. Every last one of them. Every last one of them. And for them to jump up to protect Peter in the name of protecting what he did, because what he did was homophobic. And then stand up and tell Amina that she was wrong because that's her child's father. So she's supposed to have a level of respect for him while he has made her look like a fool on TV. You was dead ass wrong, Butterfly. You was dead ass wrong. And then Erica, she says, she keeps saying our community, our community, our community. Now, maybe she's talking about the Latin community because I understand that the Latino community has an issue with machismo and people not wanting people to be gay. It's all over. And to Shakana's point, I don't know why she said it or why she injected it when she said it, but she says this happens. This right here happens through all cultures, all races, all of them. Yes, because the template and what you're supposed to be upholding is white, male, heterosexual, and Christian. That's what you're supposed to be upholding. Can I do that? That's what you're supposed to be upholding. White, male, heterosexual, Christian. And so when you're or Catholic, when you're operating in those, it's Christianity, but operating in that matrix, you find yourself inadvertently upholding those tenets. And those are tentacles of white supremacy. When you feel like the standard has to be, and anything outside of those, woman, not heterosexual, not Christian, not white, you realize when you're outside of those characteristics, then you're wrong. You're wrong. Somehow it's wrong to be outside of that. That includes being a woman, right? Being feminine. Something's wrong with that. Even women believe like that. Do you know there are women who believe that men are leaders simply because they have a penis? There are women in this country who will not vote for a woman to be president because they have been programmed to believe that women are more emotional. And that during that time of the month, she might press the button and send us to war. But the last president of the United States was extremely emotional. Extremely emotional. And this idea, because again, it's a programming. We are operating in a society that is powered by patriarchy. So anything outside of that is deemed wrong. And so in that system, men are protected no matter what. Men are excused no matter what. Peter has embarrassed Tara and Amina on TV. Cardi B let us know. You embarrassed. What did they get out of it? Babies. What did they get out of what you've done? And you got love out of them. They keep giving you love. And what have you done to them? You've made them look stupid. These smart women, you've made them look stupid on TV. They participated. But this idea that men can mistreat women and be abusive, and then when he's doing something else abusive, not to women, but now to his child, now you want to jump up and protect him? Bobby and Zell get into it. Zell said he thought he was lying. How did you think he was lying about the gay conversion therapy? Girl, it's a mess. Shakana says it happens in every community. And I said any community operating under patriarchy, this is happening. Zell, I thought he was lying. We need to celebrate each other. But I need to be able to blend. What is it? We need to be able to blend in. I can't. I need to look for a community like me. This is what him and Jonathan were talking about. And it's so funny how a bug gets on Zell and he's like, oh, God, get it off of me. But you just talk about, you was raised by a real nigga. You was raised by a real nigga. And so basically, Zell told us that his father, he learned basically how to mask his femininity in order to survive. So he's not discriminated against. So he's been taught to suppress your expressions of femininity because you live in a world where boys who express femininity are harmed. It's sad. Bobby and Zell and Sin, well, first it was Bobby and Sin. And Bobby was crying because Bobby's like, I wasn't raised with the father. We are all different type of gay men. I wasn't raised with the father. I don't understand what he's talking about. I see things differently and this and that. So he's crying. And he said it was hurtful. He said he's been listening to him be insensitive to Jonathan's needs, but he was trying to see both sides, but I watched him be insensitive. And then he, Zell comes over and talks to his little sissy pop. He calls him his little sissy pop, and they hugged. And that is what I love to see. When I tell you, that's one thing that Black men still are not comfortable doing. Do you see how Zell and Bobby and Jonathan were hugging each other and kissing each other and telling each other, I love you? That was, to me, that is when I started crying, because I was like, that's even that expression. So many straight Black men are afraid. They're afraid to love on each other because they don't want somebody to think that they're gay. That's homophobia. It is. It is, where you're afraid to express your feelings. You're afraid to express love. You're even afraid to give a man a compliment. That's how repressed y'all are. Can you imagine being that repressed that you can't express love to another man because you're afraid that society will think that you are gay? He said, let me assimilate like my father. That's what he was basically saying. His father taught him how to code switch. And that's him repressing Zell's. That's gay conversion therapy too. To me, the church does it too. He said, Bobby says, in the church, the pastor told his mother, Bobby walks with his elbows in. That's the way women walk. Men walk with their elbows out. And so Bobby says he catches himself to this day walking with his elbows out so he can posture and say, I'm a man. This is how men walk. Do you realize how damaging and sick that is? That's sick. That's sick, y'all. We really have a lot of work to do. And when you ask yourself, please, those Black people who have issues with I hate the sinner or not love whatever the fuck y'all be saying, whatever weird ass shit y'all be saying, love the sinner, hate the sin. You're okay. You have gay friends, but if your son or daughter are gay, you have a problem with it. That's what it is. You love the gay people, but if it's your family, if it's your child, you don't want that. That's homophobia. Why are you afraid of when you ask yourself, just ask yourself, why do I have these thoughts? Why do I feel like this about gay people? Where did I learn this? Who taught me this? Why was I taught this? Why was I taught that I can't express myself and the only emotion as a man that I can have access to is anger? Why? Why? Anyways, y'all, I gotta go. I didn't realize how far I was in this, but yeah. And they just hugged each other and loved on each other and said that, you know, I'm actually glad that I got to see them kind of, that, you know, they made up. And Zell said, you know, I'm glad that we're here and I'm glad that we have this understanding. Um, and that was it. I think it's wrong. I think I've made my point very clear. This idea that you can't say something about someone's parenting and then they turn around and use their child as a scale. Oh, you're talking about my child? Ain't nobody talking about your fucking kid. Ain't nobody talking about your fucking kid. We're talking about how you parent. Stop using, y'all love to use kids as a scapegoat. But I'll tell you one thing, it's too many kids and too many black kids in foster care to tell me that y'all care about these children. Too many straights fucking up these kids. Too many straights fucking up their children. Leaving them, girl, I don't even want to get into it. I want to end this video because you know, I'm done. I'm done talking because I don't want to get mad, but I don't like the idea that you can't say something about someone's parenting, and we live by this idea that it takes a village. And the village has to stay silent when men are abusing people or when men are practicing harmful parenting skills. We got to be quiet because the man, 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 the man. And then next week it keeps going. You understand how harmful the label is, but what you did was exercise homophobia with your child. You did something to repress your child's expression because you fear that pink is feminine and therefore you don't want your son wearing anything pink because something must be wrong with femininity. Right? Is that what you're suggesting? All right. Anyways, y'all take care. Because if you think something's wrong with femininity, you think something's wrong with women as well. Again, white, male, hetero, Christian, and skinny. All right. Anyways, y'all take care of each other. Protect your energy. Get out of the matrix. Peace.